So you want to level up your photography and you got a new camera flash and you want to learn how to use it. And this video will go over how to use an off-camera flash. And because more people have trouble getting to work correctly, we're going to start how to set up the power output to get the right exposure, the placement, and of course using some modifiers. I'm using the Godox V1 for this tutorial because it's a very popular flash and it packs the same features as the high-end flashes, but this will work with any flash brand, how long you are able to trigger it with a remote. I will explain how to use it in manual mode because it's easy to learn and it gives you more control and you'll be easier to understand the fundamentals. And TTL, the flash system, makes the decision for you, and you have to learn how to compensate from shot to shot. But in a manual mode, you have consistent output throughout the session, and it's easier to understand how to control it. When you start learning how to use the flash off camera, you have to try to keep it very simple. And I strongly advise you to start with a shoot umbrella as a modifier because it's very affordable. It will spread the light in a wider pattern and it has a very nice soft light. And also the position of the light is not as critical as with other modifiers. When you use a bare flash, the position of the flash is very critical, because of the shadow patterns creates on the face. But at the beginning, you need to get the exposure right, and after that, you'll learn how to be creative. And I would strongly advise also to not move your light too much around before you are getting confident with the flash exposure because it will just create more trouble. The basic exposure for general photography is the triangle between ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. When you throw the flash in the mix, you add the flash output and the flash to subject distance because you don't have unlimited power. When you move the flash back, you're losing some of the power output. There are two different scenarios with the off-camera flash. When there is no ambient light influencing your flash exposure, and when you balance the flash with ambient light. When the flash is your only source of light, it's easier because you have less steps to determine the right exposure. You just focus on the flash output. You don't have to worry about the ambient. And we'll start with the indoor shot where the only light source is your flash. For this lighting setup, the only light I have contributing for this exposure are going to be my Godox V1. I have it on the stand and a shoot-through umbrella, 32 inches. I push the umbrella all the way to the end of the shaft to create more space between the diffusion material and the flash head to give a chance to the light to spread more even throughout the diffusion. And I have the umbrella 3 feet from Eric's face, who is our victim today. And the flash is 1 foot above his head level, is pointing down, so all the shadows are going to throw behind him. And the center of the light, the center of the umbrella, is not pointing direct to his face. If you draw a straight line, it's like 1 foot, foot and a half in front of him. I want that hot light from the center to pass through in front of him, and just the sides, the side lighting, to hit his face because it's more diffuse. The light always travels in a straight direction, but when it hits the diffusion material, because of the texture on the surface, it reflects in different angles. So it changes the direction of the light a little bit, and it's why it softens the light, because it's going to hit the skin and the imperfection of the skin at different angles, and will help soften the shadows. So I have the light 3 feet from his face, pointed down. I'm gonna start dialing in my camera. You gotta set your camera at your flashing speed. I have mine is 160, but the R5 goes to 200 of a second. And I want to shoot with portrait at 2.8. I want to shallow depth of the field. I want to kind of like throw the background, soft behind him. And I know from these settings with the Godox V1, we'll shoot through a diffusion umbrella at 2.8. I need to dial in my flash power at 1/16 or 1/8 power for my starting point. The easiest way is to measure the light with a flash meter, but not everybody has a light meter, so we're gonna go by guessing game, which is the only way you can get the right exposure in a situation like this. So I'm gonna dial in my flash power on via my remote at 16, and I'm gonna take a test shot. Boom. Okay, I'm seeing is underexposed. I see the image is underexposed. I'm gonna check my histogram. My histogram is all the way to the left. That means I need to increase the exposure to bring the spike to the center, the blue background, and his face, the color of the hoodie is basically like a medium gray, and I have to move the spike of the histogram to the center to get a proper exposure. If you don't like you have different color clothes, another way to get to check your histogram is to zoom in on the face of your subject, take an exposure, because the skin is very close to medium gray, and we're going to give you an indication how to adjust your exposure. So right now I have to increase the exposure maybe with half a stop, and from 1/16 I think I'll go to, I'm just gonna increase it to 7/10, and I'll take another exposure to see where we are. From this exposure I can see the spike on the histogram move to the center. That means I'm closer to the right exposure. I'm gonna take a couple of more shots just to make sure. I think I got the right exposure. Give me a big smile, Eric. Not that big. Boom. And here we go. This is at the starting point for this session today. I think the exposure is right. Nothing is burned out. I see detail in the shadows. I see nice texture on the skin. I'm not losing any highlights. And I can continue the session with these settings. And if I don't move the subject to flash distance, I can shoot for hours with the same settings, just changing the pose on the subject and get different looks. The right exposure situation is more like a guessing game. You don't have a magic formula to dial in everything to get it right. But if you start in a situation like this, with a shoot umbrella, you got to start somewhere between 16th or 8 power on your flash setting, and that is in your ballpark. Look at the back of your camera on the histogram. Try to move the spike to the middle to have a more balanced exposure, and just increase the settings in your flash on a small increments. You don't have to go as full stop, never. Just go 3/10, 7/10 of a stop, just to make sure that you are stay in a constraint less than one stop increment, so you have a better understanding what's going on. The only changes for the exposure you made is for the flash output. You don't change any settings in your camera. You keep your f-stop and shutter speed consistent, ISO, you don't change anything. The only thing you change is the power output of your flash. When you get more confident, you need to practice a lot, because without practice you will never learn. And after that you're going to start playing with the different f-stops, the different modifiers, and learning how to adjust everything on the fly. So learning to adjust the output on your flash to get the right exposure is your first step learning flash photography. And my next tutorial, we're gonna go outdoors for a different setup. We're gonna learn how to balance the flash with the ambient, what is called filling flash. And sometimes people like to overpower the ambient. We're gonna try that one too. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please check out my channel for more gear reviews and lighting tutorials, and I'll see you next time.